Chair, I would like to also very much transfer great gratitude towards you and the whole Bureau for preparing the draft guiding principles when it comes to the fact how to deal with the sites connected to the recent conflict. We believe that, as we have been saying for several meetings so far, that all the legal tools are there, meaning within the system and this of the World Heritage Protection. And we believe that by saying this, we think that the sites, whether they are inscribed under or with the criterion 6, can be still inscribed under the instruments that are available right now. By saying this, I'll be very brief. I don't want to make a great general intervention. I just want to say that the principles that are proposed are looking very solid, and we are very much looking forward to work on them right now. Just to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Poland. Japan, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good morning to my colleagues. First of all, as a member of the Bureau, I would like to testify in the first place that, Madam Chair, you have been acting in a very fair manner. You have listened to many people, and you came up with this suggestion. I think it is a very good basis, and we fully agree that this is a result of a delicate balance. Although we do have some comments from time to time, but nonetheless, this represents a very good balance between different interests. Now, at this juncture, I just like to make remarks on some things raised in the room. First of all, definitions. Yeah, we do believe that it's better to have definition in the document, but nevertheless, as this will be very controversial. So we should well on that. We have to have a consensus. We can try, but nonetheless, if things get too complicated, I think we should stop and shouldn't have too precise definition. Otherwise, we're not going anywhere. I agree with some of the people who said that. Now, secondly, the question of operational guidelines. We do, well, also at some stage in the future, should be introduced into the guiding operational guidelines. But nevertheless, I don't think this working group has to do it. What we always go for, a series of general principles, and we don't need to change the operational guidelines as of now. But after this working group ends, and after these general guidelines are adopted, we can also discuss it in the near future. By the way, I had a chance to speak to some of the experts in Commons on this particular topic, and things like this, the guidelines like this, will certainly help them a lot. That is their view, and therefore, having guidelines is good enough for the time being. But as I said, after this working group ends and the relevant decisions are adopted, we may still need to propose that some of those things should be introduced into the guiding operation, operational guidelines at some stage. But nevertheless, this should not stop our discussions there. And finally, the question of contestation. Everybody knows we have a very strong point on that. We haven't cleared our prime minister and relevant ministers yet, but we are trying to come to some arrangement is approved. So we can start our discussions on the basis of a draft, although I think it's quite obvious to all, but we have a lot of sensitivities in this area. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Japan. I give the floor now to Kuwait, to be followed by Palestine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be very brief. First of all, thanks for the report. Madam Chair, that's what I'm not a big fan of. You know, today when I and preparing for meeting, it's built on what we agree on, and we on was not to touch the criteria. So my mindset, our input was on what's built last meeting. Continue. Tend to forget. So I think it's time to go to para and move forward, and hopefully we finish with too much things that we already agreed upon. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ambassador. I now give the floor to Palestine. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and congratulations for the hard work you are doing. You have a very difficult job. En réalité, comme ça a été dit, si on ne respecte pas ce qui était convenu et agréé, on fait un pas en avant et deux pas en arrière, et on finira pas. Deuxième chose, concernant les définitions, comme ça a été dit par certains collègues, et comme je l'ai dit au début, moi je ne suis pas contre que l'on
are including various points that have been raised, but we do need to have consensus. And I think that to achieve consensus on including these concepts in the draft decision, we would need at least 6 months. And as my colleague has said, this would not simply be a technical matter, but an ideological matter. So I think at this stage, we need to do what you said and keep this in the explanatory note. Now, concerning the operational guidelines, as has already been said, we have agreed on this already, and as my colleague from Japan said, we can certainly come back to these operational guidelines in the future. But right now, the idea is to have these guiding principles as recommendations for the future. Now, we can always come back to the operational guidelines later. Next, concerning the overall structure of this document. Now, we have 6 general principles, but paragraph 7
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving the DPRK the floor. First, audible? I'm sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. So, thank you, Madam Chair, for the excellent manner and leadership in which you have steered our meetings for this several months. Our deep appreciation also goes to the Secretariat for its excellent job, useful guidance, and timely provision of quality documents, including the draft principles in front of us. The discussion about the litigation, if the site is to be of which is a key concept in convention, consensus about the sites, or at least it should include all existing different of the states, including states. In this light, we are happy to see that the future nomination files will include, form of dedicated subsections, interpretation strategy, and education and information programs that present the full meaning and multiple narratives that support an understanding of the full history of the site. For delegation, these principles. In general, our delegation regards the document as balanced. Therefore, we propose we support the current draft document as it stands now. I thank you.
The mention of the removal of the ban on the examination of nominations of sites of memories of recent conflict. And we really congratulate all the experts and state parties for having negotiated to this very delicate balance that the document provides. We support what was said. Africa, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenya. Okay, dear colleague, thank you all for your comments. I think we spent, I think, was worth listening to how you feel about the text in general, and it allowed us to clarify several issues. What I'm going to propose to you, having heard all of you, is that we go now paragraph, we look at the definitions, and we attempt to see whether there is any possibility see that does not decide the distance as that part will be served. So there is no harm in being, even if left in the court, if this is the final decision, there is no harm in submitted so far. Barbados, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no particular position with respect to the Palestinian proposal. I think that it is in the minds of everyone what is currently occurring in different parts of the world. So this is a matter for close consideration. However, with respect to the Belgian proposal, the deletion of the definition, I'm sorry, I disagree with Belgium on this point, because it does require this prescription. The term recent, if I may be so bold, was included in recent reports as of 2018 and 2020, I think. And specifically, it was included so as the understanding would be not to call into question other sites of conflict, because if you wanted to, I could say, let's do it, the term modern, which would take us into the, 14th century, maybe? That is not really a very useful proposal. I think the term recent is satisfactory as of from the turn of the 20th century. If you wanted to be clearer, one could ask from the turn of the 20th century onwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbados. I now give the floor to Lithuania.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did not make an introductory statement in the beginning because I understood from your explanation that you would be going. Comma, exile, comma, deportation. Deportation or deportation, I don't know how to pronounce. With regard to recent, we also, I mean, we're not suggesting to delete it, but our experts were not clear of what this, were not sure, perceived it as unclear definition. Because it says from the turn of the 20th century, so we're wondering, can it also be considered that something that occurred of sites related to conflicts up to the beginning of the 20th century? For example, if they started in the end of 19th century but continued up to the beginning of 20th century, are they also eligible to be included? So I was wondering whether it is possible to say, instead of saying from the turn of the 20th century, perhaps at the turn of the 20th century and beyond. That might be, I would like to put it on the table just to understand if how inclusive this saying of the turn of the 20th century is. Then about, since it is the second para, but it's not numbered, so I understand it is part of the first para, the para on the sides of memory. With that, we also have a suggestion to include, because it says, wait, in the beginning where it says that a nation and its people, we would like to suggest, or communities, because communities afterwards are mentioned in the guiding principles in the para 3, and we believe that it is missing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lithuania. Just for your information, before I continue with the list of speakers, so that you know that this first paragraph is a quote from the report of the December 2019 meeting of experts, just for your information. I now give the floor to Colombia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you also for the clarification, because it's very important to know where these texts come from.
It's just to make sure you understand, I yes. didn't invent it.
Yes. And well, just about the first paragraph, we would like to support Belgium in the sense that we don't believe the trouble we have with this issue is with recent memories, but with memories that still haven't, I will use the word settle, that still are in discussion, that still have to heal, etc., etc. So we don't believe the recent will solve our debate, and also it will not help the case-to-case based analysis on each site. Also, no, that will be all. Thank you very much, Ms. Chair.
Thank you, Colombia. I now give the floor to Austria. Online.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually withdrew my hand because...
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
But I was just thinking, yeah, but anyway, given that you give me the floor, let me first of all, because I haven't done that in the general debate, thank you very much for your excellent efforts that I think do extremely well justice to the discussions, the very rich discussions we had. And also congratulations to the African group on their festive day. So, but on the question of, I have no comments on the Palestinian and Lithuanian proposal. Would just caution that we go too much into detail. It does say such as, so it's a non-exhaustive list. Regarding recent, I have no hard feelings on this, but given that there is some disagreement on whether it's important or not to define it, maybe it would help Belgium if we, based on what Colombia just said, put it more in the context of the meaning of the site. I don't know, it could be something, and just don't type it up now, but something like, while acknowledging the contextual nature of the question of time, something of the sort. I don't know, we can maybe work on something that puts the time element into the context of the meaning of the site, and in particular, whether it's contested or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. I now give the floor to Canada. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you. And I think we agree with Belgium about the recent, the static reference to recent. So we were thinking more that the recent should evolve with time, because right now, turn of the century is 122 years ago, but in 30, 50 years, it will still be the same. So we were thinking more of a rolling reference, either an approximate period of time, but we'll go with the room if they don't want a specific mention. But we were thinking more, like in the past 130 years or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will ask the following speakers, please, to react. It seems to me that the issue we have in these two paragraphs is really the word recent, because I am not seeing any problem with the other amendments. So please react to help us move forward on this. I give the floor now to the Philippines.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving the Philippines the floor. For paragraph 1, Madam Chair, the proposals of Palestine and Lithuania, we will go with the consensus and we're open about it. However, for the second part of that paragraph, when it comes to the term recent, while you have said that this particular formulation was lifted from the experts' reports, however, we feel that the sentence, the term recent, and then the last sentence, starting with however, they actually contradict each other, because when you look at the sentence, the term recent is defined from the turn of the 20th century. We're talking about 1890s. And then the second sentence talks about several centuries before it. So given the conflicting nature of the two sentences, I would go with the position of my colleagues from Belgium, Colombia, and the others when they recommend that maybe we delete it unless we find a formulation just like what Austria was proposing, a consensual formulation that talks about time in general. We also cannot accept, for example, the proposal of Canada, and I'm sorry, when you say 130 years, because once we say 130 years from this year, so after 20 years, after 10 years, the time frame changes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, the Philippines. I now give the floor to Bangladesh online.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving us the floor. Switch on my camera. Our intervention is related to the term recent, because what we understand that if we consider it from the turn of 20th century, that's kind of indefinite. And if you just look at the principle of the international law, when we are defining time, then we really need to see whether UNESCO is at the capacity to define time. And so it could be either at the turn of the 20th century from the inception of UNESCO and onwards. It could be one thing. Otherwise, we can drop, because when UNESCO was not incepted, it cannot actually define a time which when UNESCO was not there even. So I hope I could make my point clear. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now give the floor to Colombia. You wanted the floor again? You have the floor, madam.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. Very brief. It's just so we can reflect who is with which positions on the text, because we have the proposals, but for example, Colombia is not by Belgium, etc.
Okay.
And I think Austria.
Could you please remind our colleagues which ones, so that...
Yes, no, they did it very, very on time. Thanks. But just in general also, thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Germany.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor, and congratulations to your wise leadership and also to the African group, to the World Heritage Day. We fully support the position of Barbados and Lithuania. I think it is important to keep the notion or the term of recent, because it is, at the beginning, it was clear why we are discussing these conflict sites that are recent conflicts, and I think we should stick to the term. Therefore, again, we support the proposal of Lithuania and Barbados.
Thank you. I now give the floor to France, but please, dear colleagues, those who are going to speak, let's try to be constructive, because it's clear that the amendments seem to be okay, and that the problem is with the word recent. Now, deleting it completely is going to cause a problem, because it is in our mandate. I mean, I asked for the decision to be reminded of what we were asked to do. It is in the decision. So what we need to do maybe is to try to find some kind of a wording, maybe in the context of what the ambassador of Austria has proposed. And if we cannot do it immediately, I will keep this part into bracket until we find the satisfactory wording and move forward, if you'll allow me. But I will finish the list I have now, and the following speaker is Australia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think, I would agree with you. This is challenging, and finding a way forward will require compromise on all parts. And I think we need to recognize that finding a definition of recent will be problematic. We need to recognize that. So perhaps we can link this rather than sort of to a time frame, but to the fact that it's about needing to reflect all memories that are relevant and current in the space of the site. Because in reality, the challenge here is about that the sites that we are proposing for inscription have relevance in recent memory to stakeholders. So this is my point, that maybe we don't try to define it in terms of a period, but in terms of a linkage to the fact that it needs to reflect all memories. I think I would also just like to reflect on the fact that we need to be thinking about the future proofing of these arrangements. So, you know, we're talking about recent memories now, and I think other commentators and other space parties have reflected on the fact that if we keep it to a time frame similar to the debated, and so we need to be thinking about, you know, are we taking out the 30th century because this could cause problems, but for the future, but leaving it in will cause problems in 20 years' time. And so I think that we need to be reflecting in this text the fact that it needs to be a process that can encompass future nominations as well as nominations in the here and the now. This is my point, and perhaps I haven't given an actual definition of the text, but just to sort of reflect on the fact that we need it to be flexible. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I now give the floor to France. Vous avez la parole, Madame.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Donc voilà, on voit bien les difficultés avec la définition du terme récent. On comprend que bon, la solution proposée par la Belgique donc, pourrait être sage, mais peut aussi poser des problèmes. Donc on propose une formulation de compromis. Tout d'abord, je me permets quand même de signaler que en France, l'histoire contemporaine englobe également le 19e siècle. Donc, se limiter au 20e, ce n'est pas si clair que ça pour nous, enfin pas évident en tout cas que le récent soit aussi restrictif. Donc, ce qu'on pourrait, et par ailleurs, il faut prendre en compte le problème qui a été soulevé par les Philippines, celui de la contradiction qui est dans cette phrase entre le fait que les conflits soient récents jusqu'au début du XXe siècle, mais qu'il y a des mémoires qui perdurent. Et donc, il faudrait peut-être le formuler de sorte à ce que ce ne soit pas une contradiction, mais que ça aille ensemble. Donc, ce qu'on peut proposer, par exemple, c'est l'idée que voilà, le terme récent se rapporte généralement à des faits rapportés depuis le début du XXe siècle, virgule, étant entendu que les mémoires résultant de conflits peuvent perdurer pendant des siècles, excédant ce cadre temporel. Point.
Vous pouvez répéter, s'il vous plaît, parce que je crois qu'ils n'ont pas tout capté et je pense qu'on est sur une très bonne solution là. Répétez, s'il vous plaît.
Alors, donc, le terme récent se rapporte généralement à des faits rapportés, ça fait 2 fois rapporte, donc c'est pas super. Bon, rapportés depuis le début du XXe siècle, virgule, étant entendu que les mémoires résultant de conflits peuvent perdurer pendant des siècles. C'est ça que j'ai dit ? Au-delà de ce cadre temporel. J'y vois rien, c'est ça le truc. J'ai oublié les lunettes.
Thank you, France. I see this as quite a constructive proposal because it gives this element of flexibility that all delegations were asking for. So I would like the speakers from now on to react to this proposal. And the following speaker is Norway, to be followed by Kuwait. Norway.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving Norway the floor again. I think it's important, of course, it's in the mandate as well that you keep recent. I think that it depends on how we count, because it's for me, as I see it, the starting point is now. So for me, it's more logical to count backwards, and that's why I wanted to support Canada in their proposal of kind of rolling reference. That being said, I can easily live with the suggestion made by France. The most important thing is that we keep the reference to recent. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. I now give the floor to Kuwait. You have the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Kuwait have no issues with the amendments and of the amendments regarding the recent. I think we should maintain it. It's from the decision. And to me, I'm always like to have things very clear when they're to be implemented. And I agree with Canada, you need to have a starting point. So Kuwait suggestion is after the word inwards. What's Barbados, inward? If we can add a sentence, while maintaining 100 years time frame. So the logic is, this is, Madam Chair, this is a dynamic, it's not a static. So we started 130 years ago. Hopefully 30 years from now, we're done with the previous years. So it's, then we are maintaining 100 years. Whenever, if you're talking about 100 years from now, you're still maintaining the previous 100 years. So there's always 100 years block, a century. And this is what's the definition of recent. So this is, I agree with Canada, is, we have, here's a time frame. So this is, make it clear definition. 70 years from now, we know it's 100 years from that 70 years. And let me remind our colleagues, this is, hopefully from now on to the next few years, we will be working on the site of memories of those years ago. So this is what I think, and I'm flexible. I understand what France had, but I think this will make it more clear, with the time frame. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. See, the problem is that there was no consensus on this issue of time frame. That is why I was asking you to let me know whether you can live with the French proposal if the other one does not bring consensus in the room. And I understand from you that you could live with it if there is no consensus. Thank you, Ambassador. I now give the floor to India.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing India to speak. Since we're speaking for the first time, we'd like to congratulate you for your excellent stewardship in holding this discussion on a very sensitive topic. There is one general comment that we have to make, and of course there is specific to this guiding principle, this point one that we are discussing. General in a sense that when we're talking about the operational guidelines and it is being said that we don't need to change it, but that's true, we don't need to change it. But I think this criterion 6 perhaps needs to be relooked from the point of view of defining what do we mean by events, from this definition. But that's something that we may discuss it later. As far as this item is concerned, when we're talking about the term conflict, trying to give a slightly positive spin-off, if we may include sites associated with the freedom movement as a part of this, that is one thing to consider. Recent, the major discussion that is happening on the term recent, we would broadly go with the consensus, but I would just, because we're looking at the entire text as well. So the para 1, where you're defining the word recent, and in para 2, where we are talking about giving certain details, I'm afraid those details perhaps do not conform to the 20th century. They are the events which took place in 17th, 18th, or even 19th century. So herein there is that inherent conflict that I see in the text. But as I said, when we reach the paragraph 2, perhaps we'll discuss it in greater detail. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir. I now give the floor to Colombia.
Thank you, Chair. So I would propose, maybe because we have many proposals now on recent. Maybe if we can put them apart, because there's the first one and amended by Lithuania, and then Barbados, and then Kuwait. Then there's the proposal of France, and there is the original final text that it's actually part of the French proposal now. So I would suggest that that last one we could delete it in case we agree with France. And Colombia actually supports France. We believe that this is a good way to wording things out more fluently. Regarding the previous one, we are not fans of time frame again, but that can be solved, I guess, maybe in para 2 of the guiding principles. We can speak about these healing processes I was talking about and be more clear about it. But then again, we would like to support, moreover, the French amendment. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Colombia. I now give the floor to Venezuela.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, now my video is activated. Thank you, Chair. First, I want to congratulate you in the way you're moving us forward. I know it's a tricky situation, but your wisdom is quite necessary and good in this occasion. Okay. So first of all, in general, in principle, we first agreed. We are more prone to support Belgium's proposal to strike the reference and everything after recent. However, in view to try to find a constructive manner of moving forward, we could agree with the proposal presented by France, because we do understand. I think the best way of understanding the situation associated to the discussion and why why we're here today is not really so much about the time frame or the temporality of which a conflict or situation occurred, but as Colombia said previously, about the sensitive nature and how that impacts, or how the communities that are there are still being affected, or still have that in their system. A way of going about it to understand, and we cannot hold them, force them to a temporality to heal wounds when everybody has a different process and a different time frame of moving on or being able to dealing with the situation. It's like going through a breakup. There are people who are able to move on and have a surrounding and the context that allows them to move on much quicker. And there are those who have a bigger situation, there was a bigger conflict, or whatever the experience was much more traumatic, it requires more time. So in this case, again, we do not think it's wise to subject communities, groups, people to a time frame, but I understand the concern expressed, so we would prefer to go with France's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Venezuela. I can see that there is a consensus building here with the French proposal, so I would like the following speakers to quickly tell me, please, if this is something they can live with so we can move forward. Barbados.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With respect to the Lithuanian proposal in the first paragraph, I would agree with the additions made on top of the Palestinian proposal, except I don't agree with the inclusion of resistance movement. This has a different sense of action from the people and imposition, war, and the results of those. So I would suggest the inclusion of resistance movement, but the others I am perfectly happy to. With respect to the made by my colleague, I do agree with his proposal. However, I am quite happy with what France has proposed. I think it is a useful means of moving us forward, and I suggest that if we are all in agreement, I'll be happy to go along with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbados. Germany, you have the floor.
because I think it is very important to stick to the observation that memories result temporal framework. Therefore, I suggest, while maintaining a 100-year time frame and at the same time acknowledging or realizing that memories resulting from conflict can endure for centuries beyond that temporal framework. So that is a combination of both proposals. So at the same time, acknowledging or realizing that memory is the last part of the sentence of the French proposal.
This brings us back basically to the original, almost.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bless you. I want to come back to Germany just to make one thing clear, because your proposal brings us more or less back to the original proposal. So if there is no agreement on it, I would like to know whether you can live with the French proposal, please. Can you let me know before I move to the following speaker?
Yes, of course, I could live with the French proposal as well. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. I now give the floor to Palestine. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. Well, since our colleagues showed flexibility, I thank them for their openness supporting the French amendment. I am going forward with them. But my concern is the remark of Barbados on the amendment of Lithuania that I support fully. This is the first thing. Second thing, I'm sorry, when I presented the amendment on the first paragraph, I've forgotten to make an amendment to the second part of the first paragraph, which is the definition of site of memory. So if we can scroll down, please. Non, quoi supprimer? Qui a mis supprimer? No, no, Palestine supporting Lithuania. Keeping it, not... Non, je soutiens, oui, oui, on garde la résistance, oui.
Resistance movement. So, who went to...
And I thank Lithuania for adding this amendment. So now the second part of paragraph 1 here. Yes, I have a serious problem with the sentence that starts, the second sentence, where it says they are places that have not been constructed as memory sites. And even if we go forward, still it is not so clear. They are unintentional monuments. So this is, I'm not sure about it, because already on the World Heritage List, we have some memorial monuments, and they were intentionally constructed as such. I understand that this paragraph comes from the reports that have been already drafted at UNESCO. Well, it is the language of UNESCO, but I think that here, with this purpose, this might be problematic. So my suggestion is to delete from they are places that have not been constructed until, well, I'll continue. They are sites as memorial, but as a result of events at the location and the desire for people to remember, they have become memory sites. They are unintentional monuments. These sites are not the nation-building monuments of old, with warriors on horses or king on thrones, celebrations, etc. Yes, still nations. Yes, still here. This is my suggestion. We delete this and we keep the definition very large, very simple, very clear. With what we have now on the board, it is much more simple and much more broader and larger. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Palestine. I would like to finish with the first paragraph now, and I still have a few speakers, and then I'll move to the second paragraph. First paragraph, please let me know if you can live with the French amendment. And then the proposal by Barbados that was not supported now by Palestine as proposed by Lithuania. Please let me know how do you react to this. And my speaker now is Mexico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We want to support the proposal made by France as it complements the original text, but also takes into consideration the content of previous documents made by experts on the matter. So we would like to support that one.
Thank you, sir. Lithuania, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank the Embassy of Palestine for supporting our amendment. I just wanted to clarify in response to the delegate of Barbados that resistance movements can be very well organized with their structure, with the documentation, and with the ranks and all those elements needed to have enough clarity to reflect them in the heritage. And using the opportunity they have the floor, I would like to support the French amendment as well.
Thank you, Lithuania. I now give the floor to Haiti. Madam Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since I'm taking the floor for the first time, I'd like to congratulate you for your presidency. I would like to support the French amendment. I'm afraid that if we do not go with the French amendment or a bettered version of the French amendment, then we're just turning in circles because we're going back to the original version. So I would like to make a small suggestion in case Kuwait and I believe Germany were very attached to the time frame, the restrictive time frame of the 100-year period, perhaps using the word cycle, a 100-year cycle, therefore it has this rolling capacity. Adding it to the French amendment may be a consensus for everyone, just adding within a 100-year cycle. On the first Barbados amendment for deletion of resistance, I would like to support Lithuania for keeping it. I do believe that resistance, like exile, is a response that populations have when they are faced with conflict and war and oppression. So I think it is very legitimate to keep resistance very much there. That is all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Haiti. I now give the floor to Belgium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, we would like to support the Lithuanian amendment on the resistance. Secondly, on the recent, we would still have preferred to delete the definition. However, we can live with the French amendment, whether or not changed by the Haitian amendment. I also hope, just to add, I hope that our distinguished friend from Venezuela does not suffer from breakups from the beginning of the 20th century anymore. That would be rather sad. And then just to avoid to have to take the floor again, we agree with Palestine's amendment on the second paragraph.
Thank you. Thank you, Belgium. I now give the floor to Brazil. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam. And concerning the first paragraph, we agree with Lithuania. We would keep the resistance movements. Concerning the second paragraph, we can certainly live with the French proposal, but we believe the German suggestion and the Kuwaitian suggestions are an improvement to what has been said before. They propose a moving time frame.
في شخص بحياتي لازم احكي له ان انا ما بدي اخسر لو شو ما صار بيننا انت رح تضلك شخص قريب مني ومن قلبي وحتى لو اجى يوم وقلت لك فيه كلمة بكرهك لا تصدقني في شخص بحياتي لازم احكي له ان انا ما بدي اخسر لو
Please, following speakers, include in your interventions whether the French amendment as amended by Haiti is something you can live with so that we can move forward. The next speaker is Turkey. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the first part, I think we can live with the French proposal amended by Haiti. And this is okay for us. But also I want to save some time and about the second paragraph of the first paragraph. We would like to keep it as is, as proposed by the Secretariat, keep the original. And we would like to, we cannot support the deletion of that part from the second paragraph. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I now give the
Yeah, I was talking about the Palestinian amendment in the second
The
paragraph.
sites of memory, yes, not this one. Thank you, Turkey. We will come to this one.
Thank you.
Following speaker is South Africa. You have the floor, sir.
I'll just be brief. I think my sister from Barbados, I'm sure she will understand. We are attracted to the Lithuanian proposal because, in fact, we wanted to add liberation movement, but they are taken care of under resistance movement, if that's the understanding. So we want to appeal that we support the Lithuania proposal. And now that I'm on the floor, I also want to go to paragraph number 2 and support the Palestine, that we keep it simple. And I think if you delete the paragraphs that or the sentences he's proposing, then it keeps it very simple and direct. Thanks. We're not hostile to the French at all. We're enjoying the French wine and champagne, so we can go along with their proposal. Thanks.
Thank you, Ambassador. Haiti, could you please repeat your amendment so we can see that it's not reflected yet, and I'm asking people to react to it.
Yes, I noticed. So I'm not attached to any particular part of the sentence where it would be placed. I can't pretend that I have the grammatical authority to decide, but I would add within a 100-year cycle so that it has that rolling capacity moving along with the reader within a 100-year cycle. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ethiopia, you have the floor.
Sorry, madam. We agree with what was suggested by France, with the understanding that the period covers not just events starting from the 20th century. That has to be clear for us. There has to be, I think the original proposal by, I don't know if it was Lithuania who said at the turn of the 20th century is something would be more amenable to us. We agree with the idea of a cycle as suggested by Kuwait and now formulated by Haiti. And we would like to add liberation movements in the definition of conflicts, because those are the most important ones for Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethiopia. South Africa has spoken. Philippines. You have the floor, madam. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the first part of this paragraph relating to conflict, we fully support the proposal of Lithuania and Palestine to keep resistance movement in the formulation. Second, Madam Chair, with reference to the French proposal, we support their formulation and thank them for providing this one. We are a little bit hesitant on the inclusion of a rolling cycle because we would like to keep it at the beginning of the 20th century. We do not want to limit the definition in this case in a rolling time frame. So unless our French colleague would be changing the formulation, we would like to keep it in its original form. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Bangladesh online.
Madam Chair, thank you once again. I think I really apologize to dragging the whole session back to the first paragraph, because if we just look at the Indian proposal, actually that is not recorded here, but that is a very useful proposal if we need to end the debate concerning the term recent. Because now, if we go back to the first paragraph, you will see that the conflict covers, various elements which really confuses the definition of recent. Because if we consider war, battle, massacre, there are wars which created history, which created even the world we are living today. Say, if we talk about the 30 Years' War, which resulted to the Treaty of Westphalia, that was in 1618 to 1648, that doesn't cover within the term recent. And then again, if we have battle, there are many battles which we would like to inscribe as World Heritage, but that doesn't cover within the time frame of 100 years. Then again, if you go to genocide, that again, you need to understand when UN decided or defined genocide. So before that, do we have the term genocide used in the international domain? We are not sure. And the same thing, if we talk about the resistance movement, then there will be some debates that whether we should consider the movement of self-determination as resistance movement. And as you can see from the proposal of Ethiopia, that they have some way, included liberation movement, which again, for some states, it will be the movement for self-determination. Now, and then if you look at the mass violation of human rights, so we also need to consider that when the world started talking about human rights following the UDHR, so then again, it gives you a timeline starts from 1948. So then again, exile and deportation, I think exile and deportation, that is a result of a conflict. So we are now, if we include the result of the conflict, then again, we are, we are including infinite scopes within this definition. And this will not at all lead us to a confirmed time frame that will decide recent. So that we would like to propose to the floor that, if we just recall the Indian proposal, that we first decide what we want to include as conflict, and then we decide what should be the definition of recent. Because if we have so many elements as conflict, then many member states will have a legitimate proposition to define the term recent. So the thing is, first we need to, I think we need to narrow down the conflict, that what we want to include as a conflict. Should we talk about really resistance movement? Should we talk about the self-determination? Should we talk about torture, which is very light, and the torture again leads you to the Palermo Protocol. This is the only protocol which defined torture and as a mechanism of human trafficking. So,
dear colleague, in order to move forward, I need you to tell me if there is something you want to add or something you want to delete, so that I can seek the opinion of the room, because for me it's not clear what you're exactly seeking, practically speaking.
Madam
Can
Chair,
you please tell us?
What we specifically propose is, first we decide what we want to include as a conflict, and from the part of Bangladesh, if we want to specifically mention, we want to add one term after the massacre, which is we want to add atrocity crimes, which covers genocide, torture, exile, deportation as a package. So when we include atrocity crimes, we can delete the words genocide, torture, exile, and deportation.
Can you leave, because I can already hear the no coming up from the room. So can you live with atrocity crimes such as, and keeping the list as it is? Can you reply to me, Bangladesh, because I don't think there's consensus on deleting them.
That is okay. That is okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
And the second thing is, deleting the word resistance movement. So we support Barbados in this case.
No, there is no consensus on this either.
Because then you have then our proposal is to add the movements of self-determination.
Okay. Can we add, please? That is the risk with lists that we know very well in UNESCO.
Thank you,
All
Madam
right.
Chair.
Thank you so
Chair.
much. Thank you so much, Bangladesh. I now give the floor to Italy. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I will be very brief. I wanted to intervene on the issue of the definition of recent, just to support the amendment proposed by France, which we thank for the proposal, and that we would align with the consensus on the addition proposed by Haiti. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. I now give the floor to Poland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. Poland wishes to support the amendment presented by France when it comes to the interpretation of the term recent. And we wish to also thank Haiti with their proposal in amending this paragraph, but we fully agree with Philippines that we wish us to keep the original version of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Poland. And I now give the floor to Barbados.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Firstly, let me clarify my comment. It is not to suggest in any way that resistance movements were any less important or earth-moving than other activities. However, my position is that I did not want resistance movements or liberation movements or civil rights or any of these types to be characterized solely in the context of conflict. That was the reason why I proposed the removal of resistance movement. I will go with the consensus. However, I do suggest that Bangladesh actually has the right motive. If there was something other than conflict characterizing these movements, he suggests movements of self-determination. I would be quite happy to then add resistance movement, liberation movement, etc., but not to have them characterized solely in the context of conflict. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you making a drafting proposal so that
yes,
we can
I'm making a
please?
drafting proposal that if we move Bangladesh's proposal to movements of self-determination to then be followed by resistance movement, liberation movement, etc., I would be happy to go along with the retention of the rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. I now give the floor to France. La France, vous avez la parole.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Oui, donc sur la proposition d'Haïti, la difficulté pour nous, c'est donc dans ce cas, ça signifie que la Première Guerre mondiale n'entre plus dans le cadre des conflits récents. Donc, est-ce un problème ou pas? Est-ce que c'est à nous ici d'en décider, sachant que c'est à cause d'un dossier lié à ce conflit, comme vous le savez, que le moratoire a été décidé et que toute cette réflexion
on this question of classifying the First World War. So that's my question here. Thank you. That's a good question. And I now give the floor to Venezuela.
Share. Okay, so I'll try to be brief. Again, as I said before,
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, please. Sorry. Just a second. I was asking speakers, please, to now give me their position concerning the different proposals that are on the screen, because we really need to conclude on this part. Thank you. Ana Luisa, forgive me for interrupting you. You have the floor.
in this, yes, I was going to say, we prefer, as we said before, we prefer France's original proposal. However, seeing if we have to insist on the proposal presented by Haiti regarding within 100-year cycle, in no matter of being constructive, perhaps it could be within, but not limited to, include, but not limited to a 100-year cycle. I think perhaps that way would give some kind of temporality, but at the same time, it remains flexible to understand that conflict or there are sites of conflicts that could be considered beyond that time span. If there is no consensus on this, we can withdraw it without.
Donc, si je comprends bien, pour avoir un consensus, il faut que dans chaque paragraphe, on met tout et son contraire. C'est ça?
So it seems to me that if we want to have consensus, we need to say everything and the opposite of everything that's been said. That seems a little bit problematic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You've given us more pressure. But regarding the two paragraphs, first of all, on the first one, we would also go with the terms resistance movement and liberation movements. And for the second one, we would also live with the French amendment. We would prefer also that the original text be kept, although the Haitian proposal is quite interesting. However, we would want to make another suggestion just to give us more accuracy and precision, and this is not to confuse the flow at all. But we were of the view, first of all, that the matter was not so much in relation to temporality, but as to how much certain memories are still painful and vivid, even if they go beyond the time frame. So against this regard, we would want to include at the bottom of the last paragraph when it says, it being understood that memories resulting from conflict can endure for centuries, that perhaps we could have it being understood that the sensitive nature of memories resulting from conflict can endure for centuries beyond that temporal framework. This is just to make us more accurate and precise, and as a general sense also to go with the following paragraphs that go afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now, this is the list of speakers that are still requesting the floor. I have Romania, Colombia, Ethiopia, Canada, Serbia, Haiti, and Lithuania in the room, and Austria and Rwanda online. Adding now Belgium, Canada. Did I read Canada? No, I didn't read Canada. Please add Canada's here. I read Canada. Haiti. Dominican Republic. And I'm closing the list. I will conclude then on this paragraph. Thank you. The floor now is with Romania. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your tremendous work so far. On the definition of recent, we support the French proposal without other amendments. And on the part related to sites of memory, we could live with the simplification of the text in the way suggested by Palestine and supported by other countries. And on the definition of conflict, well, we are a bit far away from a text, a consensual text, but I have no other comment on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Romania. Austria, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have now entered really into a situation, as you pointed out, where we get a bit lost. For me, you know, I can live, in the end, I can live with everything that is consensual. But I have to say that I have really difficulty with the term crimes of atrocity, which just doesn't exist in international law at all. And it doesn't make sense to have such a generalization, although I understand where Bangladesh is coming from. But we have already said the term conflict is considered as covering events such as. So to then say after 3 or 4 such as doesn't make sense to me. So I would not want to support Bangladesh crimes of atrocities. I have no problems with all kinds of self-determination, resistance, or liberation movements, because I feel that's important for some. But again, we should stop at some point, because otherwise this gets really absurd, because then we're just listing. I have a preference for the original French text because it was simple. And even though I acknowledge what, the intention of the Haitian amendment, which wanted to in particular accommodate Kuwait and Canada's point, together with Venezuela, who also I understand tried to be helpful, this text just doesn't make any sense anymore. So in order to go forward, Madam Chair, I would suggest that, because you have, I don't know, if you just said 10 or 12 more member states, and we are at 12, 15, and still at paragraph 1. I would suggest to you that you stop this discussion and put it in brackets, ask, I don't know if it's possible, if you think it's a feasible thing, to just say to those who are really interested in this discussion, let's form an informal working group and work on this separately.
Oh, no.
No, you don't want to do that.
No.
Oh, well, then I can't help you. Then I can't help you. But the only thing I can help you is let's try to simplify things, and not add stuff. All right?
Thank you. Thank you. You've been very helpful already, because what I'm going to do now is ask the Secretariat to simplify what is on the screen, to remove all the names of the countries, to keep the French proposal, because I think Haiti would agree with me that there is a big trend towards keeping the original text, and Haiti is nodding and agreeing with me. So remove everything else. Concerning the first part on conflict, we are keeping the list, but we are removing the proposal by Bangladesh, if Bangladesh doesn't mind, because it doesn't seem to carry any support. And it's true that the rest has become a list, a long list, but it seems that the room wishes to keep it. So please clean up the text. And now I'm going to ask all those who are going to speak later, include the Ghanaian proposal, because it seems to be a good proposal, and I would like the following speakers to react to it. Now, I would like the following speakers, those who are still on the list, to tell me very simply whether they can live with what is on the screen or not. That's all, please. Do not explain anything anymore. But I'm going to wait, of course, for what is on the screen to be cleaned. We'll just wait a minute, because they will then need to reflect this in French. The French is done? Okay. I think it's more or less there. And I therefore now give the floor to Colombia. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So, yeah, and thank you for this facilitating my intervention, which will be very brief. I would like to thank the Ghana for their wording because it's very useful and very important. So I will support, of course, the non-striked term of recent. And regarding the term conflict, and I hope I'm not too controversial, I believe exile and deportation are more consequences of conflict if we are talking about the term of conflict. If not, I mean, I think it's more current, but then again, I'm open to suggestions. And I wonder if in English you speak about resistant movements and liberation movements in plural as it is in French or not. That's just a question. So I don't know if I think exile and deportation was the ambassador of Ethiopia, which I hope he agrees. Thanks.
Thank you. We could align French and English and put everything in the plural as proposed. I now give the floor to Ethiopia. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We fully agree with the French proposal, especially given the last remarks that was made regarding the problematic of having a cycle, which, as she said, would exclude the First World War. But we insist that the term not be modified to say not since the beginning of the 20th century, but at the turn of the 20th century. We insist on that. Secondly, we want to amend our amendment, if you allow us, regarding liberation movements. We've heard some concerns. We want to specify and say liberation movements from colonization. We want to make it clear. Thank you.
Well, constructive ambiguity would have been more helpful. Thank you. Now the next speaker is Rwanda.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to appreciate your facilitation and the elaboration of the Bureau for the guiding principles, as it's the first time we are taking the floor. I'll be very brief. We agree with France's proposal, and we also align with Lithuania's proposal on the additions, movement of resistance, and liberation movements. We also align with the changes to be made on the second paragraph proposed by Palestine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Canada, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Chair. Although we would have preferred to have the Asian amendment within the French proposal, we can live with the French proposal as it stands now. And on a paragraph on sites of memory, we were going to suggest deleting the third sentence, so we therefore can support the Palestinian suggestion to delete the two sentences. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. I now give the floor to Serbia. You have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And since I'm first taking the floor today, I would just like to thank you and commend you, and also to congratulate our African colleagues for World Heritage Day, African World Heritage Day. My point was about the recent. We would like to support the French proposal as it is originally without further additions. So in that sense, we would align with the Philippines and Austria and Poland. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Haiti. You have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To answer to your specific question, I can absolutely live with the text as it is on the screen right now. And to answer to France's question, my amendment, and I'm reluctant to call it an amendment, was merely a way to find a consensus between a previous version and the French amendment, which I fully supported from the beginning. I want to support the new Ethiopian amendment for adding liberation movement from colonization, And I thank Ghana for their addition as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Haiti. I now give the floor to Lithuania. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to react to the suggestion to delete exile and deportation. I cannot agree with that. And I would like to justify that they go in parallel with military occupations, with resistant movements. They are not the result, as it was mentioned by our Colombian colleagues. So please kindly undo the deletion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Australia online.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to again reiterate a point that we made online around the French amendment relating to the term recent, we support that. But also to just flag that we would require or prefer that the text referring to sites that are referring to unintentional monuments be retained within the text, because we think this is a really useful reflection on how sites of memory do evolve. But we are happy to support others in removing the subsequent text that refers to sites that are not nation building, et cetera, being removed from that paragraph in paragraph 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Australia. I now give the floor to Belgium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually wanted to take the floor on the atrocity crimes, which has been deleted, but I'll make two other small points. First of all, on the liberation movements, we believe them to include, but not be limited to, liberation from colonization. So we would prefer to have the broader term, which obviously includes liberation from colonization. Secondly, we don't have a preference on beginning or turn of, but it should probably be from the turn of the 20th century, because now it's limited to only the turn of the 20th century. Thank you.
Okay, in order not to reopen the floor on this, I want to know whether you're okay with this, Ethiopia. Is it okay? Okay, then could you please make this change proposed by Belgium? From the term. I now give the floor to the Dominican Republic.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Japan, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. On the first part regarding conflict, we can go along with anything which is consensual. And secondly, we support what is shown in the screen, on the screen about recent, about the word recent. Now, I have a bit of a problem with the Palestinian suggestion. Sorry for that. With all due respect to you, Ambassador Munir, can just go back. Yeah, there. Yes. I have no particular attachments on the knights, warriors on horse or kings on thrones. No, that's not my intention. But I think there is a useful, very useful message here. So what I would like to suggest is perhaps we can have a sentence, something like, they are, well, going back to the first part of the, because what I'm planning to say is the link between the memory and a place. This is essentially the message here. So what I propose is they are places that, and then there are places, and then already as a result of events at the location and the desire for people to remember have become memory sites. Have become memory sites. or perhaps we can say that they are places that have become memory sites as a result of events at the location and the desire for people to remember. What is important here is that we need to have a site. We are talking about World Heritage. We need to have a site. We need to have a particular site and also the memory. So that link is very important, and those sentences were talking about that, although they didn't have to talk about warriors on horse or kings on thrones, but the core message is these places are remembered as a result of the events at the location and a desire for people to remember. So those are very useful, useful elements, and I think we should keep them there. Thank you.
Thank you. So what we have here is a new proposal to replace the first sentence deleted by Palestine. But so far, what I have heard so far is that everybody agrees on deleting the second sentence. I have heard no one wanting to keep the second sentence. Turkey, I've seen you, you are on my list, don't worry, your turn is coming. So reaction now on these. And the next speaker is South Africa, followed by Palestine and then Turkey.
Yes. No, I listened carefully to what Palestine said regarding, no, you're still going to say it. I think it's Belgium on the question of the colonization. Because in our context, you've got to say colonization and apartheid. Otherwise, if you say colonization, you are excluding the liberation movements in South Africa. But the struggle there was against apartheid. Well, so if we say colonization, then and apartheid, then we are included.
Yes, but there are some that fall under neither.
But if my dear brother agrees to do away with colonization, then I can do away with apartheid.
And then we just
so that we don't restrict it. But as you can see, we are friends, so no hard feeling. So we either colonization and apartheid, or we only end with liberation movements. And that for us, for South Africa, is very, very important. Otherwise, you exclude us.
Could you please react, Ethiopia, knowing that the original was really like capturing everyone?
Yes, the problem.
Because now we're going to get into a new list.
Yes, the problem with the original was that some were not comfortable because when you say liberation movement, it can include many things, including things that we may not wish to include, at least some of us. Because we talk about issues such as territorial integrity and so forth. So we have to be very, very careful. That's why we wanted to make it precise. If there are others who want to broaden it and include other issues, they can. It's up to them. I fully support what my brother said in terms of liberation movements from colonization and apartheid. Those go hand in hand for us, at least in Africa. For the rest, whatever inclusions, modifications that others want to make regarding liberation movements, but the issue of liberation movements is a contentious one. It's a highly political one because you can have very different interpretation. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Palestine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Et comme vous l'avez prévu, effectivement, quand on ouvre la discussion sur ça.
As you had indicated, as you had foreseen when one opens up the Pandora's box.
Our church said is very broad, but you don't agree with it. In that case, from colonization, apartheid, and military occupation, and occupation without military. Yes. Yes, occupation. That's it. As for the second part, with the amendment of Japan, I'm sorry, but I'm not so comfortable with it because still it brings us back to a specific definition of these places, and it excludes the places where memorial structure has been built for these events. So if we keep it as it is, you will exclude some sites on which there has been nothing special, but there has been a commemorative something, just like, for example, l'Arc de Triomphe. Yeah, l'Arc de Triomphe, it has been built on purpose, but it was not the place of the conflict itself. It is a memorial structure. So you are excluding these structures from with your proposal. So I think it is better to stick to what we have in the paragraph in black. Sites of memories are public until want to remember, and then the last sentence, they are a specific location with architectural. This is the broad. I don't know if I'm clear. Yeah? I think that we need to keep the definition as broad as possible in order to be inclusive. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. And now Turkey, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to correct something. We don't want to delete on the second part of the text about the sites of memories. We don't want to delete the part that was suggested by Palestine. We would like to keep the original. So we are not among the members, among the states that would like to delete, but we can delete the second part. We have no problem about the deletion of the horses and kings, but we want to keep the first part starting with they are places that have not been constructed as memory sites. We would like to keep that sentence as proposed by the Secretariat.
Was, first of all, it's not the Secretariat. That's
okay, sorry.
But could you then live with the Japanese proposal instead?
We would like to keep the original anyway.
Okay. I now give the floor to Kuwait. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, you know, Kuwait has no issue about deleting the second part, but we support strongly the Japan amendment. I think it's a very important.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Australia. Online.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the opportunity to come back to clarify. I just wanted to make clear that what I said earlier was that we support the second paragraph and such of memory that they are places that you can construct sites and put the relating unintentional monuments. We will, if there is a consensus to delete, then we will support the amendment proposed by Japan. Thank you.
Colleagues, I'll continue with the list, but I would like you to remember that we are here negotiating to find a consensus. So I realize that you have instructions in the beginning. It doesn't make any more at all. So we really need to move forward. I would like flexibility on your part. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm inclined to change my mind and not say anything right now. Thank you, Madam Chair. And we all have trust in you in leading us here. And I'm really an emotional topic that everyone is invested in. And I think the first paragraph is the most important due to the nature of the definition. And hopefully we're going to move forward. With regard to the Japanese amendment, before that, the word, if we go up to the first paragraph and there's the word occupation twice, I would like to ask my brother to clarify, because at the beginning it was taken, yes, military occupations and then occupation. So just for clarification, and then moving to the Japanese amendment, I think it makes sense to keep it. Yet I'm not strongly with or against either or. But I think the Japanese amendment makes sense. With regard to the deletion of the third part, we are very okay with it.
And the Japanese amendment. So I would like to hear from the others on this. Now I have Colombia. You have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, yet again. So regarding the sites of memory, we would like to strongly support Japan. We believe that it really makes it better. And regarding the concerns of the ambassador of Palestine, I think that paragraph can solve concerns because it is the first location, architecture or archaeological, which I don't understand why it's there, etc., etc. So that might help. I would like clarification about the archaeological regarding these particular sites of memory, because I don't believe it's what we are talking about. And regarding the first paragraph, I mean, I'm starting to be a little concerned because of experiences of my country to be too if we're saying such as, let's keep that touch as quite broad, because otherwise this is not, I think this is difficult for some countries. And I'm taking an example. If you say liberation movements, it's not the same in India than in Colombia, for example, at all. It's like totally opposite. So it's a little complicated if we start listing, because then we will have to specify too much, as we are doing colonization.
You want to delete liberation movements? I don't know. What are you proposing exactly?
What I'm saying is that we should delete many things, actually. But if it's too complicated, I can agree. But I think this is very complicated, and in the future will be difficult at the national level to follow up these guidelines. So
yeah, and this is why we had conditions in the report and did not want to go into these discussions.
Yes, Madam Chair, but even if it is in the report, when you're on a national level, they ask you what is the frame, and you will have to refer to this. I mean, I don't want to.
So please, so that we can move forward, what do you want to delete exactly?
I would like to be more general. So if we can,
Point of order. Sorry, point of order from Palestine.
Go ahead.
Madame la Présidente, you forgive me, but I think that it's up to you to decide, but I think that we wasted 3 hours for not one. So what about if we forget about paragraph 1 and 2 completely, just forget about them, and we start considering the DR and the 6 guidelines, or the whatever number 10 paragraphs. It's a suggestion just to forget about paragraph 1 and 2, to take them out of our document. This is my proposal.
We have 15 minutes left. We have spent 2 hours on this paragraph. I'm not going to let them go. Let me tell you, I'm not going to let them go. 15 more minutes. We are close to a consensus. These lists have been discussed many times. Many times I said nobody seems to disagree with these proposals by Lithuania. Now, Colombia, you come 15 minutes before the end, you tell me you want to delete all of them. It's unfair. I mean, everybody had agreed to them. I'm going to ask you to live with them. Will you live with them?
I can live with them.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. So my question now, before I continue with this list, paragraph 1, anybody has strong feelings to reject paragraph 1, the first part? Because there was a question whether you want occupation twice.
because in the first we are talking about the military occupation. It is the liberation movement against occupation.
That's
So it's
the
two
question.
things.
Thank you. Now, I would like to know whether anyone can absolutely not live with paragraph 1 as it is on the screen. I see no one. We consider this bloody paragraph adopted. Why do not have a hand? We move to the second paragraph. Here we have already a consensus on deleting this sentence that to be deleted by Palestine. We have a proposal by Japan to replace the first one. Oh, sorry. Anybody cannot live with this paragraph with the proposal. I see none. It's adopted. Belgium, I didn't see you. Everybody wants to delete what is in red now. Not objected to delete.
There is a serious problem here. Somebody put back the first part, knowing that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Sorry, it's deleted. It was, but there is a new amendment by Japan to
Yes,
replace it. But we delete it. I agree with you. I'm telling them
we
to
keep
delete.
yes. So we need to keep it deleted.
Delete.
Yeah.
Please delete it.
Okay.
It was replaced by a proposal by Japan. Now, as it is now, knowing that what our colleague from Colombia said, it's true, is true, because your concern is really covered by the last sentence, Palestine, really. But I will now ask on this whether you can live with the paragraph as it is with the proposal of Japan instead of the deleted proposal.
If I may, Madam Chair, please.
Who's
Rwanda.
Oh, you're on my list.
Yes, please.
I'm coming to you. I will continue with the list as we had it. I have France. Where is Rwanda? Okay. I have France first, to be followed by Palestine. France, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Oui, en effet, c'est pour appuyer l'amendement du Japon qui semble assez clair, de biffer ces deux phrases qui pourraient en tout cas être utiles dans le manuel, quand on disait le manuel de proposition, pour donner des exemples de ce que c'est ou ce n'est pas. Et je pense qu'on verra, mais on n'y est pas encore, dans le 2 de votre texte, sur quand on définit un peu mieux ce que peut être un site associé à des conflits récents, comme le disait le délégué de la Palestine, de voir un petit peu ce que peut être ces monuments commémoratifs ou pas. Et ça, je pense que ce sera plutôt après qu'on le verra. Merci.
I cannot take credit for this text. This text comes from the Beasley Cameron report. This is not my text. But I will now give the floor to Palestine. You have the floor, sir.
I'm trying to deal with the amendment of Japan to make it acceptable for us. So I think if we read that they are places that have become memory sites as results of events in the country, and we delete at the location, and the desire for people to remember it, probably. So that's it. We can live in that case with this amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'll give the floor. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of interventions that we would like to propose in this particular para. A, the sites of memory are public spaces. I think the word public could be removed. Second, we would go by the original intervention proposed by Japan. C, the last line, they are a specific location with architectural or archaeological evidence. Because we are talking about events, so there may be situations where there are no archaeological or architectural evidences. So we may like to delete this line altogether. And sorry, coming back to the this thing where I said the word public could be deleted, and where we are saying that the sites of memory are the deletion of the word public, places where we are talking about here an event. Now, event becomes again a very broad sort of definition here, but because this is the guideline or guiding principle for the sites of conflict, so we may replace the word event with the expression conflict, and that then corresponds with the previous definition that you've just approved. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, India. First of all, if we delete public, what does it mean? That it could be private places that we are inscribing on the World Heritage List? I don't understand the amendment. Secondly, if we we're no longer in the World Heritage this is the World Heritage Convention. Don't forget, this is not the intangible World Heritage Convention. So I'm quite worried with your amendments because they completely change the whole scope of this article.
May I intervene, please?
Yes, please. Could you clarify?
When I said that the word public could be removed, it means that the spectrum could broaden because there could be properties which are perhaps not public and they are private in nature, but they have a significant association with a event or a conflict. That is where I meant. So it sort of broadens the scope. Or we could say, if you want to keep the expression public, I have no issue. In the last line where we proposed the deletion, again, yes, the point is that yes, the convention is about the tangible, but the archaeological evidence is something that is perhaps that needs to be reviewed.
So now you would want to delete archaeological right?
Evidence. So they could be architectural, they could be spatial, of course.
Okay, thank you. The speakers list, and now I have Poland. You have the floor, madam. To be followed by Norway.
Let me start with the new amendment that came just from our distinguished colleagues from India. So as long as I can agree for removing the public and just to keep the explication of the sites of memory, which we are talking about definition. So it means that it will require a place of memory. So in this sense, I can let's say live with the exemplification of the definition that it is place. We're in a conflict because we are talking about a recent conflict. So I would even say that it could be a recent conflict or an event. It doesn't matter in this point because we are talking about specific situation when we are dealing with a recent conflict situation. And then I'm fine with the proposals that have been made by the Japan proposal, and I cannot totally agree with the Indian proposal of removing the archaeological events, and because we do really need a justification of a place. We are talking about the World Heritage, and this is the material culture heritage. This is not intangible, this is tangible, and it has to be connected to the place and to the exemplification and evidence. In this sense, I would even say that because we spoke about what it is actually a site of memory, and we are talking about the definition, so they are a specific sites, not a location, because this is not a location issue. It's a specific place or site with archaeological or
architectural evidence. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Poland. Norway, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor again. I would like to support the amendment made by Japan and also support the comments and reflections made by them, Australia and Poland. And I would like to keep, as Poland wants, the archaeological term below. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Japan, to be followed by Morocco, then Argentina, then Rwanda, then Mexico, then Belgium. And we have to close at 1. The interpreters gave us 10 minutes. I would like you to be very short, please, in your interventions, because I would really love to adopt this paragraph before we end this session. So now, Ethiopia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I thought you had forgotten about us because we raised our flag earlier. Anyway, we agree fully with what was said regarding the physical nature of the sites, maintaining the word archaeological and so forth. But we also fully support what was suggested by our friend from the ambassador of Japan. We really don't understand what the concern of Palestine is. Yes, there are sites that can be inscribed that actually are not the site of the event itself. But that part is covered by the second part of the paragraph. So unless we are being tautological or whatever, we both are covered. So both are there. The Japanese proposal is absolutely right. You need to have places that actually reflect the memory itself be inscribed. You also need to have places where you remember the event, which doesn't need to be the site itself, but that is covered there. So the two are there. Unless you want to add a third thing, let's maintain the two, and we conclude this part. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Rwanda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I would like to align with Ethiopia and Japan on the proposed new text. The most important thing I believe is to allow countries and people to be able to commemorate and conserve the memory. So be it on the site where the event happened or on other places where that were built for that purpose. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have a question before I continue. Japan, do you agree with the amendments of Palestine to your amendment?
No, I agree with the ambassador of Ethiopia. So I thought I didn't have to say that again.
Palestine, would you remove your amendment?
Yes.
Can you accept that your concerns, let me finish, your concerns are taken on board in the second, in the last sentence? We will make this clear in the report.
No, I agree. No problem. You can delete my amendment on the Japanese amendment, but I would like to add just one word at the last sentence. Now I don't see it anymore. Because, now no, come on, what happened? They are. The last sentence, they are specific here. They are also. We add the word also. They are also. That's it. And with this, I'm fine. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Could you please clean up this paragraph?
So you take out my amendment on the Japanese amendment, and I support.
And clean up, please, the whole paragraph. Now, I know that there are countries who have requested for the floor, but I want to put a question before I see whether it's necessary to continue with the list or not. I would like you please to read this paragraph as it is now, once it is totally cleaned up. Okay. Now I would like to know, put back archéologique en français, s'il vous plaît. Poland, are your amendments reflected, or you want to make the, what?
I just would love to, Madam Chair, make a one slide proposal that we delete a specific place. We just keep the site because we have a place at the end of the sentence. So for the grammar correction and the clarity of the sentence, I would.
You want to delete space,
No,
specific?
I would like to delete place, just to keep a specific site with archaeological or architectural evidence. Thank you.
Then delete the quotes because this was a quote. Delete les guillemets, il faut les enlever. Now, I would like you please to look at this paragraph as it is on the screen. Huh? It was proposed to replace event by conflict.
Madam Chair?
You have a question?
Just to note the unfortunate language, they are also a specific site, or, you know, that can be...
The English, you
yes,
mean the English?
Just clarify.
They are also specific sites. They are also specific sites with architectural. Okay, yes?
I agree fully. Only at the end of the Japanese amendment, remember them, not it, because here we
Yes.
refer to events.
Okay.
That's all.
So
Thank
these
you.
are all questions, proposals of form. Now on substance, and anybody cannot live with this paragraph as it is on the floor. All those who can live with it, please put your plates down. All those who cannot live with it, keep your place up. Same online. Those who can live with this paragraph, please put your hands down. Keep it up only if you can't live with this paragraph. Colombia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two specific remarks. First of all, if we say that memory sites are places where a conflict happened, it's contradictory to the following paragraph, because if we want to have positive aspects of a memory site, it's not necessarily related to a conflict, so I would rather keep an event. In this order of ideas, I don't think it changes too much, I hope.
It is true. That is
because
absolutely
otherwise
true.
it limits very much.
Just put an event, it covers
An event
both.
can be a conflict, I mean,
Bring
of course.
back, sometimes, wanting to do the best puts us in a difficult situation. Please put back event.
And the second, my second comment, and I would really like a clarification about the last phrase, because we have in Article 1 of the Convention that sites are works of man, of combined works of nature and man, areas including archaeological sites, which are of outstanding universal value for the historical, aesthetic, ethnological, anthropological point of view, so that's clear. But here we are limiting only to architectural, to archaeological. My question is, archaeological refers to dead societies in anthropology normally. So with the discussion we are having now, with the theme we are having now, archaeological doesn't have place. But I would really like the clarification I asked before. Otherwise, we could kind of delete so much. I mean, this phrase, I don't think it gives too much, or delete architectural or archaeological evidence.
There was no consensus on deleting this phrase at all.
Okay, but then I would really like clarification why archaeological.
There's a point of order by
yes.
Argentina. You have a point
Thank
of
you.
order.
I will do it shortly. I suggest in that case, if instead of article, or we can speak about material evidence. It's a suggestion, just to be clarified. Instead of saying article, what is she asking for? She's asking for to take the art, no? I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm going to stop here because, first of all, this is not a point of order. You just broke into the list of speakers.
No. Well,
it's not a point of order.
I didn't speak.
So I'm going to go on with the list because
the only thing I would like to resolve just a problem, just that. If not, I don't speak anymore.
No. I'm going to give you the floor to explain, but it seems that there is no agreement with the paragraph, so I cannot wrap it up. So I will continue with the list.
Madam Chair, can I please get my clarification? Otherwise, we are okay. If it's the consensus, we can keep it. But archaeological, I mean, we have already archaeological sites. I mean, I don't see why it's here. I really would like to understand. I'm an anthropologist. I would like to understand why archaeology. If it's possible. Thank you.
Does material remains is what you're proposing, Argentina? Material evidence instead of archaeological? Can we put it on the screen? And we're going to have to stop in a few minutes. Is it now acceptable replacing archaeological by material evidence?
As long, Madam Chair, sorry, as it was as long as it is in accordance with how we understand site, the definition of site in Article 1 of the Convention, I think this is a good way of defining it, yes.
Anybody objects to that? Bangladesh, you object to that? Yes, please, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, Madam Chair, we would like to go with it if we can add with material evidence in conformity with Article 1 of the Convention, because the Article 1 of the Convention that clearly says historical, aesthetic, ethnological, or anthropological point of view, which is not being covered here. So material evidence is fine in conformity with Article 1 of the Convention.
I don't think anybody would mind mentioning the Convention. Who still feels that they have to speak? Belgium is hesitating. You're okay?
Come on.
No, you're not okay. You have the floor.
What about Cambodia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if I may.
Belgium, you have the floor.
Thank you. We're fine with the material evidence. Just we had the same concern as the ambassador of Palestine in the sense that we found it too exclusive. The only problem is with also, it seems to be cumulative right now. So just a suggestion, and if it doesn't work, fine. Instead of also, we would propose for people to remember them and or specific sites with material evidence so that it's clear that it doesn't have to be both.
And or instead of also.
Yes.
Okay.
So we make it one sentence connected with and or.
Okay. Are you okay with this, Palestine?
Of course, I'm okay, and I thank my colleague from Belgium, but I have just one remark now for the material instead of the word evidence. Scientific people and in this domain they use remains, not.
Clearly, it's not. We're not going to be able to adopt the paragraph because I mean there are also people online wanting to speak. So,
But I'm okay with the amendment of, it is fantastic idea. I
yes,
support.
but more plates were raised after this amendment, which means that there is a problem, and clearly we're not going to be able to solve it today. So I'm stopping the discussion here. We were close, but apparently not close enough to finish this paragraph today. Now, this puts us clearly in a difficult situation, because the number of meetings we can have to adopt these principles is not indefinite. There are no funds, there are no rooms, and now we basically have not even started the DR. So really, this shows how difficult it is to deal with the definitions. And this shows that we were right to put them in the report and not adopt them. And when they are in the report, they are not official. They are just in the report. And you made a big deal of something that should not have been a big deal. But South Africa, you wanted to say something?
Chair, thank you so much. I know that the translators are about to go. Perhaps we either adopt that paragraph with your summary, or else when we come back, we decide that we do away with the definitions. Because the point you have said is exactly we've wasted 2 hours on something that we anticipated. So I propose that you either help us to summarize this, we adopt this, so that next time we know where we're going to, or else we go back to the decision that we don't go forward with the definition. That's the proposal I want to make.
So I'll try it for the last time. Anybody agrees with do you disagree with the motion of South Africa that we adopt this paragraph? Yes, there are 3 plates up, so it is not possible to adopt. Then I'm stopping the discussions. We are meeting again to continue on the 10th of May. And those of you who have some amendments, I hope you're going to really act responsibly if you want us to get results in this working group, and send amendments that are absolutely necessary and not just unravel the text that comes from reports that you have all endorsed, done by the most eminent experts that you all praise all the time. So I'm hoping that the amendments you will be bringing at the next session will allow us to go quickly. I then thank you and we'll see you on the 10th of May.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, the interpreters, for the 10 extra minutes. We really appreciate it.
خيل ابو مازن خيل ابو مازن خيل ابو مازن خيل دار شراب نزرقت لنا ايام لا نزرقت هذا عرفات لا نزرقت لا نزرقت لنا ايام كل هي كلبا مسيحه يا شباب مسيحه هون مسيحه هي مسيحه على دمي إذا بتفكروا ما تفكروش الأقصى تمسكوا لمكة زي بيت المقداش اليهودي ما تمسكوا لمكة خي لمكة يا مسيحة خي يا مسيحة الله أكبر يمين تتخيلوا الله أكبر مكة شلخن إذا شلانو هذا بيت شلانو يوم النكبة شلخن النكبة يوم عصمون ماذا نتوقع خيالي يلوتي تعقل خيالي يا كلبا شيء تقدر تدرس بلوغي لما تبعي خطة عاملين
نعم يا اخوان، اليوم زيارتي لمسار وادي القلت اللي موجود بالقرب من أريحة بمنطقة البحر الميت. مسار جدا جميل، واد المي جاري فيه طول ايام السنة، الشجر النخل على اليمين وعلى الشمال. يلا بعد الانترو. مسار وادي القلت هو مسار جدا جميل ومميز، يقع بالقرب من مدينة أريحة بمنطقة جبلية ومليء بالأشجار والنخل اللي موجودة على ضفاف الواد. هذا المسار ينقسم لقسمين. أول مسار اللي بننزله بالسيارة بطريق جبلية لحد ما نوصل بداية المسار بتكون عقبالنا كنيسة، وبعدها بنمشي للجهة الغربية والواد بيكون على يميننا لمدة 20 دقيقة لحد ما نوصل منطقة الشلال اللي كثير ناس بتسبحوا فيها. موجود فيها مناطق اللي بتوصل لعمق 1.70 ل 1.90 سنتي تقريبا. موجود هناك منطقة وسيعة للأولاد الصغار وبإمكاننا نمشي أخرى للجهة الغربية داخل الواد. المسار الثاني هو نفس المسار الأول، وبعد ما نرجع لبداية المسار بنمشي للجهة الشرقية اتجاه مدينة أريحة لحد ما نوصل دير القديس جورج، ومن ثم بنطلع الشارع لفوق ما يقارب 1.5 كيلو وبنرجع على السيارة. ولكن من تجربة يا اخوان المفضل انه الواحد يخلص المسار الاول وبعدها يركب بالسيارة ويروح على منطقة دير القديس جورج، وهناك بيمشي شوي لانها منطقة مرتبة وطرقاتها ممتازة كثير، لانه المسار الثاني صعب كثير وما بلايم اي حدا، وتحديدا الكبار بالجيل وطويل كثير. مسار كثير حلو، ولكن لا شك انها منطقة أريحة حم كثير، وبفضل انه الواحد يجيب معه مي للشرب وطاقية اذا حابين، والاهم من هيك بوت بلائم هاي المسارات الجبلية الصخرية. كانت زيارة كثير حلوة، مسار عن جد حلو وبستاهل الزيارة. سلام يا اخوان، اليوم زيارتي لمسار وادي القلت اللي موجود بالقرب من أريحة بمنطقة البحر الميت. مسار جدا جميل. موجود هناك منطقة وسيعة للأولاد الصغار وبإمكاننا نمشي أخرى للجهة الغربية داخل الواد. المسار الثاني أنا اليوم موجود في واحد من الأماكن الأثرية بفلسطين، وهو نفق القطار العثماني اللي موجود بالجبال اللي بالقرب من بلدة بلعة الفلسطينية اللي تابعة لمحافظة طول كرم. هو يعتبر من الأماكن الأثرية القديمة بفلسطين.
أول إشي إحنا بنرحب فيكم على أرض بلعة الصامتة. بلعة تقع على سلسلة جبال ممتدة وبتربط 3 محافظات بين قراها ومدنها. الخرق هذا بني على زمن العهد التركي